last time that video game series at this era had certain trends. Another was to make the third game of a series a prequel, which is what we got with Dragon Warrior 3, Castlevania Dracula's Curse, and The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This was the first and only Zelda game released on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and as you can see, it dropped the idea of numbering each game in succession, which really was smart given what the chronology of this series is going to become. A Link to the Past takes place approximately 100 years prior to the first Legend of Zelda. The game opens by telling the story of how a great evil entered an alternate world called the Golden Land to find the Great Power, and 7 wise men had to seal off the Golden Land and trap the evil within. This game starts with Link's ancestor living with his uncle in Hyrule, only he isn't really called Link. Yet this game started something else that would be the case with every game since. While the player character is called Link by the fans and on the game boxes at times, within the game itself, he's actually called the name that you give to the game file. You actually rescue Zelda pretty early in the game, who then tells you that the wizard Aghanim basically stabbed the king in the back, assumed his identity, and is now kidnapping maidens. He's using their power to open a sealed gate between this world and a dark world where a golden power lies. To beat Aghanim, you have to find the 3 pendants of courage, power, and wisdom. Why do those sound familiar? Which then allows you to claim the Master Sword. The game went back to its original mechanics of a top-down view for the entire game, eliminating the side-scroll view for battles. The main RPG elements, like the level-building system, were also eliminated, and you instead strengthen your player through an expanded version of the system used in the original. There are 4 attack levels you can reach by getting the Master Sword, having it tempered, and then changing it to a golden sword. You can also get 3 different levels of shields and 3 levels of protective clothing. Secondary weapons like the bombs and arrows are back, and there are many more like different magic rods, powder, and a net to catch and bottle fairies. The magic meter is one holdover from the second game, and you can get medicine that can replenish your life and magic power. One ability that debuted with this game is the spin attack, which allows you to strike all monsters that immediately surround you. You don't get the sword blast until the Master Sword, and while it's stronger than it was in Zelda 2, it's still not as effective as it was in the first. Hyrule's landscape has been reduced from the previous game back to just the area covered in the first one. Well, sort of, because things have changed. The large lake, which was in the middle at first, is now officially called Lake Hylia and is in the southeast, while the Lost Woods that were in the southwest are now in the northwest. The southwest now has the land's lone town of Kakariko. And this is only going to be the start of these type of geographical changes, as we'll see in future games. What the land loses in acreage, it does make up for with several caves and hidden areas. You can't be afraid to try anything in this game, as you'll need to throw some items into a fairy pond to raise them to the next level, and another that you keep throwing money into to increase your bomb and arrow supply. So you get the pendants and the Master Sword, but not with enough time before Aghanim grabs Zelda again and sends her away. You beat Aghanim by playing baseball with his fireballs, only to have him send you to the same dark world that he sent Zelda and the other maidens. And thus, the real quest begins. Yes, this was also the first game that started with one quest of obtaining a certain set of items, only to follow up with another, more extensive quest. As I look at it, it actually has some similarities to the first and second quests that were in the first Zelda, only now packaging them together in one story. So it turns out that Aghanim was just a pawn for Ganondorf the Thief, turned Prince of Darkness who has the Triforce, and now that you're in the Dark World, you must find the 7 maidens that are trapped here to help beat Ganon and take the Triforce. To do this, you have to cross between both worlds using a magic mirror and solve the secret puzzles that get you into the 7 dungeons. Although the first one has to be the most frustrating, as you have to bribe a monkey to open the passage for you. What does a monkey need money for? You also have many more items to find, like the debut of the hook shot, an invisibility cape, a cane that creates blocks, and magic medallions for powerful spells. The flute is back, and again you use it to help travel between different parts of the world, this time by awakening and summoning a magic duck that transports you to 8 different spots on the overworld. Yeah, I'm not sure what they were going for by making it a duck either. Meanwhile, you also find other portals to the Dark World that are scattered throughout Hyrule. How exactly was the Dark World completely sealed off again? Once you rescue the 7 maidens, including Zelda, they allow you to enter Ganon's tower, where you eventually face Aghanim again? So you beat Aghanim a second time, and it turns out he was Ganon all along? So why did he need to break open the seal if he was really in the light world as his alter ego? Or was Aghanim just some projected image? I don't want to think about it, I just want to fight something! Ganon starts out with new attacks like teleportation and tossing his trident, but he ultimately goes to a similar attack from the first game, turning invisible and shooting fire. You have to make him visible by lighting the torches so you can then attack with your sword and the silver arrows. Apparently Ganon gets weaker in the future because he has to take multiple arrow shots in this game compared to the one shot from the first. Once Ganon is finished, you become the new holder of the Triforce, which instructs you to touch it with a wish in your heart. Many believe Link's wish was to make all of Ganon's evil go away, which restores everyone who died throughout the game. But does that mean Ganon himself was also revived and returned to the Light World? I'll have my thoughts on that later. A Link to the Past was the first real start as to how far and expansive not only the Zelda franchise, but console adventure games in general could get. It also showed the first hints as to where Shigeru Miyamoto and his team of designers would take the series, like making adjustments to the game layouts and series history. Granted, this is mostly done to add entertaining challenges to the current game, but it's also resulted in the continuity snarls that have caused many an argument as to how the entire series history goes. We'll get to that soon, but for now, we'll take a look next at Zelda's first foray into the portable world, as Link helped take the Game Boy to levels never before reached.